Welcome. Have you ever really thought about what's happening under the hood when you buy something? I mean, whether it's just a coffee or something huge like a car, every single transaction has this hidden structure. Today, we're going to break that down. We're going to look at the anatomy of a purchase and find out there are really two totally different kinds of exchanges. So let's just dive right in with a really simple, but it turns out a really powerful question. Are all purchases the same? I mean, when you buy something, is that exchange always perfect? Is it always complete? Well, the answer might actually surprise you, and it fundamentally changes how you look at the entire economy. To figure that out, let's start with the most basic, most straightforward type of transaction out there. We can call it a complete exchange. Think of it as the simplest, cleanest kind of deal you can possibly make. So, what is a complete exchange? Well, it's when you swap one real physical thing for another, like a simple barter. But more often, it's when you use a real asset, like actual cash in your hand, to buy some merchandise. It's a direct trade, value for value, right there on the spot. The key thing here, the most important part, is the finality of it all. The seller gets their money, the buyer gets their stuff, and that's it. It's over. The transaction is totally closed. Both of you can just walk away with absolutely no strings attached. No lingering promises, no obligations. Done. But what happens when you don't use a real asset like cash right away? I mean, what if you use a credit card or your business gets an invoice or you take out a loan for a car? The second a promise to pay later enters the equation, well, the entire nature of the exchange just completely transforms. And that brings us to the incomplete exchange. Honestly, this is the real foundation of our modern economy. Just think about it for a second. This is everything from you using your credit card at the grocery store to a company sending out an invoice, all the way up to getting a mortgage for a house. This is where things get really, really interesting. So just picture this. A seller hands over the merchandise, right? But instead of getting cash back, the buyer gives them a promise to pay for it in the future. That promise, that IOU, well, that's what creates a debt. And it means the transaction isn't really finished yet. So the crucial takeaway here is that this is what we call a sale on credit. The exchange is left open. It's kind of hanging in the balance. Why? Because one person has already done their part. They delivered the goods, but the other person has only offered up a promise. The buyer hasn't actually completed their end of the bargain. Not yet, anyway. Now, to really, truly get this, we need to be crystal clear on the two very, very different things that are being swapped in this kind of deal. Because on one hand, you've got something you can touch, and on the other, you have an idea. First up, you have the real asset. This is the whole point of the transaction, right? It's the coffee, the book, the car. It's the actual physical thing you can see and touch and use. It has immediate, tangible value. And then on the other side of this trade, you've got something else entirely, a financial liability. This isn't a physical thing at all. It's just a commitment. It's a promise that gets recorded somewhere. In the simplest terms, it's the buyer's debt. Okay, now this is where it gets absolutely fascinating. That single promise to pay, that one piece of debt, it looks completely different depending on whose shoes you're standing in. It's really like a two-sided coin. So, from the buyer's point of view, they've just taken on a financial liability. It's a weight on their shoulders, right? It's this obligation that they know they have to settle down the road. It's something they owe. But, and this is the cool part, for the seller, that exact same promise is a financial asset. They now hold a legal claim, a right to get money in the future. For them, it represents value that they are owed. This duality, this idea, is one of the absolute core principles of all accounting and finance. Every single time a credit transaction happens, it simultaneously creates a liability for one person and an asset for another. It's a perfect balance. One person's debt is always another person's asset. Okay, so this brings us to the final, really critical piece of this whole puzzle. If all these credit sales are incomplete, well, they've got to get completed somehow, right? So how do we actually close the circle? The exchange stays open, it stays incomplete, for one really simple reason. The buyer still has to make good on their promise. They created that financial liability, and now they need to settle it. Until they do, the books aren't balanced, and technically that transaction is still in progress. And that leaves us with a really powerful question to think about. For every single credit card swipe, every business invoice, every mortgage out there, what actually has to happen to finally close that loop? How does a buyer settle that debt and turn an incomplete exchange back into a complete one? The answer to that is the key to understanding money itself, and we'll explore it in our next explainer.